All right, so it's 2 weeks since we installed this package and it's time for another peek. Before I get started, I make sure I got everything that I'm going to need. Some more pollen patty if they need it, another gallon of sugar water, frame perch, hive tool, spray bottle with sugar water in it. I got my smoker smoking. So, and I need to have a plan. Last time we looked at this 6 days ago, we saw a small larva. So we knew she'd been laying for about 4 days at least. So now it's 6 days later, that's 10 days total. So we should be able to see some capped brood from the first day or two that she was laying. We're gonna look for eggs. That's always important. It's always what we wanna do. I got wax here, just in case I wanna scrape some on plastic frames, encourage them. Probably won't use that yet. And I might manipulate some outside frames to encourage them to draw out everything. So, well, first we'll start with a little smoke at the entrance. A little smoke right on top. But not a lot. My friend Irene mentioned that she saw I was using an inner cover, and I had mentioned before when I'm feeding, especially with a hive top feeder, I don't even bother with an inner cover. Inner cover has its uses. Provides bee space above the frames. It's an extra entrance, and it can help with condensation, airflow if you use a tiny little shim. Right now we're not worried about any of that stuff, so yes, we don't really need the inner cover at the moment. If I leave mine laying around, it usually gets sold or borrowed or lost, so that's where it is, but not necessary. So off we go. Let's see, they've taken almost all this gallon. There's a little bit left, maybe just an inch in the bottom. I got one to replace it, so I'm not going to mess with that. The little burr comb around the bottom of it, sometimes you just scrape that up. They got pollen patty. I might give them a little more to keep them happy. It's not moldy or anything, so I can still reuse that. Set up my frame perch. As always, we start from the outside. They haven't even touched this yet, so we'll give it a little spray of sugar water. Keep them happy. They haven't touched number 2. Set that aside. They are working on number 3. Only sugar water, no eggs. So at the end of this, I may move this frame just to encourage them. And I'll show you that in a second. So, the next frame. All right, there's really not eggs on this, but this is capped honey. It's sugar water honey, so it's no good that we would want, but that's what capped honey looks like. They're sealing it up, but it's made out of sugar water. It doesn't have any good stuff in it. Now, one thing I did forget today is my glasses. It's been a long weekend. There are a couple eggs in there. There's one little cell capped that she must have laid a couple in with these two, but nothing major going on this. And we're gonna just give that a spray. Keep them happy. What I mentioned about the wax, sometimes you get a frame later on and it's really not giving them a chance yet, but you can just take the frame and rub a little bit more wax on it, and it kind of encourages them to use it. Not quite that important right yet. So it's important to notice there's really no brood on this. That's going to be important in a second. Here's my apivar strip. I'm going to take this out for now, just set it aside, and when I put it back in, I'll put it back in a different place. So this is what we were talking about. This is where she started laying, and that's capped brood. And you can see around it is what she laid just a little more recently with large larvae. It's nice and wet, and that's good. As you get farther away, you can see smaller larvae. And then there's probably eggs. Yep, there's eggs on the outside, way down here. And you know, typical of honey across the top, and you got pollen over here. So we've already seen eggs, so we know she's doing good. And she's been laying in the last couple days. Those eggs are laying down. Here's more capped brood. I'm gonna give a quick little spritz over here, but not soaking it. Yep, and there's eggs down the bottom here. I don't want to keep it out, it's a little cool. So we've seen enough to know that we still got a laying queen. That's what's important. All right, so this is probably the frame she started on. Look at all that, that's all capped brood, so that's probably between 9 and 11 days old. I'm glancing around for her. There's the honey up top, pollen underneath where my thumb is. Here's real small larvae and eggs. So she's working, and that's what we want. Same thing on this side. We're gonna get rid of this burr comb. Try to clean that up as we go. That can always drag across the frame and get into your queen when you're pulling the frame out. I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking for her. Like I said, it's a little breezy and a little cool today, so we don't want to keep this open any longer than we have to. More capped brood. This is the earliest stuff she was laying. Larvae all around it, eggs. Here she's laying real well. They got pollen coming in, and they're filling, capping off some honey. So I'm just giving a quick glance for the queen, if I can point her out. Oh, there she is, right there, right at the end of my thumb. See her, Austin? So, well, so we saw eggs, we saw the queen. We want to leave any of those frames that have brood on them in the center. This has brood too, not a lot. It's mixed in with this pollen, but she's filling in any cells that she can. So we want to keep all those frames together. You know, basically these four. This one didn't really have much on it. It's mostly sugar water honey, so I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with that. And this one, they're really not working. So I'll give it a spray. Did I say this one had brood on it? Yeah. So we're not going to move much on this side. We're going to leave this side alone because I don't have the frames to mess with. We're going to put it back. Slide these all together. Now we get to here. This frame they're working on, but there's no brood. So we're going to push this a little bit farther from the center. And I'm going to put one of these ones that she hasn't started working in here. That way the bees will cross it and they're more apt to work on it. In fact, I'm going to do these two. Then we're going to put this one that they're working on the outside. That's a little bit of frame manipulation. But if there was brood on it, I don't want to put it on the outside. Because you want to keep that centered in the cluster so they stay warm. My Apivar strip was here. We're going to just move it over in another spot. A little bit different spot for them. Jesus. So, that's that. This pollen patty that they've been eating is still good. That's going to go back on. I'm going to give just a little bit more. They haven't been taking a ton of it. It'll be another week before I get in here. Where's my full bucket? I'll give them a whole nother gallon of sugar water. There's the Apivar strip. So they have enough feed for another week. Back on goes this. And like I said, we don't need the inner cover really, so right on with the outer cover. And they're done for another week. That's it. So